On this week's Carrier App, we look at some of the news and interviews from this week's CCA Mobile Carrier Show. Well, thanks for joining us on this week's Carrier App. I'm your host, Dan Meyer, Editor-in-Chief here at RCR Wireless News. Well, I recently had a chance to attend the CCA Mobile Carrier Show in Nashville. And while there, I had a chance to speak with Steve Barry, who's the CEO of CCA, on the newly rebranded event, as well as some of the topics on the CCA agenda now that the 600 megahertz incentive auction is ongoing. Let's take a look at that interview now. This is Dan Meyer with RCR Wireless News at the CCA Mobile Carrier Show here in Nashville. I'm here with Steve Barry, CEO of CCA. Steve, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you, and thank you, RCR, being here and actually live streaming and covering all the events here. Thank you.
A lot going on, that's for sure. And now I think we can say this is the inaugural Mobile Carrier Show, correct?
Absolutely. We rebranded the show, and as I said this morning in the opening session, we don't want anyone to have any second thoughts about what are we doing here, what is the focus, and it's pretty easy. Mobile carriers, that's what we're about, and if you want to be with a mobile carrier, this is a place to come.
Yeah, and you guys have done a pretty good job actually of kind of rebranding the whole, I mean obviously when you first came into to CCA, it was RCA, and you guys rebranded to CCA and now the show too, so you guys have definitely done a really good job of kind of making sure people know what's going on with both the organization and the event itself too.
Well, thank you. You know, a lot of credit goes to our members, the
Sure.
carriers and the associate members. They give us good feedback on what they need and what they want, and you know, we're all about serving our members and making sure that we got an ecosystem that our carriers can enjoy for a long time.
Yeah. Now I know some of the topics from the event, I know some of the sessions already we've seen, and I know the sessions that we're going to see coming up, a lot of focus on what's coming up, and obviously with 5G and IoT and all these different acronyms that are getting thrown around nowadays.
Right.
It seems like you guys did a pretty good focus this year on really making sure that those are being put out there, so like obviously your members can get some insight there. I guess you can touch a bit about the importance of making sure that everybody can kind of, I guess, be on the same page in terms of, you know, this is what's happening and you guys should be aware of what's coming down the pike when it comes to kind of the telecom and the mobile space.
Absolutely. You know, we started out with a really great breakfast this morning, and then we had a CTO panel.
Yep.
You know, and it was really extraordinary, I thought.
Yeah, very good.
Great information. They didn't get so technical that you couldn't follow it, but you're absolutely right. What we're learning is that most of the smaller carriers, they don't have the staff or the resources to not only experiment but test run and define, you know, the new capabilities in a 5G arena. But together, our carriers are learning that yes, together we can figure this out. And everyone's focused on getting to 4G. And as you know, we got an auction going on that is. We'll probably start the forward auction here shortly, but everyone wants to focus on what are the next steps that we need, practical next steps that we need to make in order to get ready for 4G and the 5G. As you know, the 5G was a huge conversation. We have a 5G a breakout session, a whole track on IoT, and as you go around the room here, you'll see a lot of focus on that, and that's what the carriers need. Give me some certainty of where we need to go next, because most of the small carriers don't have enough room to make a mistake.
Yeah, and it seems like obviously CCA is going to be, it seems like a big part of it, because like you said, everybody working together can be a big part of, you know, being able to, you know, learn from each other what's happening out in the marketplace. I mean, again, they don't have the resources to throw a bunch of money at this, and if it doesn't work, it seems like CCA is going to be pretty core to a lot of this evolution towards 5G and all these different technologies come out for these operators.
I look forward to, you know, the carriers have been fairly forward-leaning on, okay, what do we have to do next? And our vendors and our suppliers, you know, the people that are on the show floor, the pinnacle sponsors, they're all saying, listen, we want to help create an ecosystem so that wireless carriers can utilize not only the technology they have now, but the technology that's coming down the road. And that's really important for especially the smaller regional carriers.
Yeah, I know I was talking with some of the vendors today, and that was kind of their words was, you know, hey, we need to, you build on LTE, get LTE rolled out, which is still, a lot of these guys are still doing that, and then you can kind of make those next steps, whether it's virtualization or IoT or 5G, once you get that nice solid base out there. And it seems like, you know, again, that's progressing at a pretty good rate, it seems like, at this point.
Yeah, and I think we're learning it's all right to be a little different.
Sure.
You may have a different priority, but because of your region or because you're rural or urban, suburban, there may be different priorities, but you can roll out those capabilities in a very defined and methodical way, and they integrate into a 5G capability. So every carrier will have to make their own best decisions of what is it that works best in their marketplace, but that's sort of the beauty about this getting to 4G and advanced.
Yeah. I've held off long enough, and now I want to talk about the spectrum auction. You brought up the spectrum auction earlier. How's it going, do you think, to this point? Obviously, you guys had a lot of influence when it came to the rulemaking. A lot of the rules that came down for the set-aside and for the band plans, and then you seem to really, you guys, again, were at the forefront of really making sure the FCC learn from the mistakes of the last auction, perhaps the 700 megahertz auction, I should say, what happened there, and you guys seem to really get a lot of good points in there when the rules came out. Now that we're in the middle of the auction, or at least the beginning of the auction, I should say, how have things, I guess, to your perspective, at least gone, and kind of, I know some things we can't talk about, but where are we at so far in terms of this auction proceedings?
Well, as you know, the anti-collusion rules are still in effect.
Yes, I know. As a reporter, I know.
But you can talk about what the expectations are. And you're right. I think we did a really good job of being advocates for creating an auction with terms and conditions that allowed our smaller carriers to not only bid, but actually win. I mean, we got the smaller partial economic areas, we got a reserve, we have a limitation on how much spectrum in the reserve any one carrier can purchase, so that many carriers can actually have access to that opportunity and we got interoperability. The problem that plagued us enormously on the 700 megahertz auction. So there's some mistakes that we're not going to make, and it's been a tough row though for our carriers, because another trade association that represents broadcasters has been in disagreement with a lot of the things, and particularly the transition time frame. We held firm on the 39 months. That's what Congress suggested. That's what the FCC suggested. A federal court has confirmed that that's a reasonable time, and Congress and the FCC has also confirmed it. So we think we need access to spectrum sooner rather than later. So if we can keep that time frame, and we're all about ensuring that it's done in a safe fashion, but also an economic fashion. You have to have access to that spectrum. 39 months is reasonable, and we've filed a couple responses in legal proceedings to ensure that our position on that is sustained. And so far, I think everyone is in agreement, at least on the policy side. Maybe not one of our other brethren in the association world, but I think we can do it, and we can do it in a safe fashion, and get spectrum to these companies so they can bring these new services to the consumer ASAP. And that's what we're all about. And
obviously before the auction began, we saw the list of participants. A lot of members, CCA members, were part of that. I guess, were you pleased to see the participation? I mean, obviously, I'm sure you were aware at some point that there was to be pretty strong participation in the event. I guess, but when you saw the final list, were you, I guess, fairly pleased with the representation? Because I know, Chairman Wheeler came out to one of the events, I think, a few years back, and said, "Hey, we need you guys out there. We need you guys to be part of this proceedings." In the end, were you pretty happy with the way your members kind of came through to really participate in the proceedings?
I was very pleased to see a lot of our members are participating. It sort of, confirms I think the wisdom in getting the rules for the auction that allowed the smaller carriers to participate. Now there's some that are participating that I can't quite figure it out.
And, a lot of strange names.
But I think that's good. I think it's going to be a very competitive auction, and I'm looking forward to this thing, the forward auction, kicking off sooner rather than later. And that's, I hope that, like I say, I hope it's sooner, because the faster we get to the actual forward part of the auction, the faster we can complete the auction and begin the transition.
I was going to ask you, I guess, maybe what's your view on what kind of timing should we be looking at for this? Obviously, I think we're about a month, maybe not about a month into it, maybe a few weeks into the reverse auction part of it still. I'm guessing we're still expecting a few more weeks of the reverse auction, and then a little waiting period, and then while they repackage everything, and then we go to the forward auction.
You've got it.
Okay.
So and if you could put the dates on that, I'd appreciate it.
I'm working on it.
All our members would.
I'm working on it.
The expectations were probably late May, 1st of June, that the forward auction would begin. Chairman Wheeler indicated a little note in his appearance last week at the Senate Appropriations Committee, asked for $17 million more for auction because it could go into 2017. I took a deep breath and I said, I hope we're finished by then. But I think he's being cautious and prudent in that regard. But I'm hoping that we'll see the auction come to a close before then.
Is there any concern that this might go past the early November timeframe where there's going to be a very busy DC election going on as well? I mean, is there any concern about that, or are you guys pretty comfortable if it does go that far?
I think we're more concerned about the elongation of the auction itself.
Okay.
I mean, I'd love to see it end, September, October.
Sure.
If it goes into November, I don't know that it's going to have a particular impact on all the other craziness that's going on in Washington D.C. That will be
its own craziness.
That will have its own set of rules and their own hopefully end date, and hopefully in the end of that we'll have a pretty good clear path of when we're going to be able to get more spectrum for new innovative services.
Then I guess now that the auction is going on, what's CCA's next big focus? I mean, obviously you guys were focused a lot on that. I know there's some other rulings have come out. USF reform has been coming out as well. Lifeline issues been coming out too. As you guys look ahead, what's kind of your big focus now through the rest of 2016?
Yeah, well, USF reform is a huge issue for us. As you know, many of these carriers are building networks, high-speed mobile broadband in the most difficult, most costly places in the world in the United States to build. So effective restructuring of the USF and Mobility II funds is obviously a priority for us. Spectrum aggregation policies are always a concern, and we're focused on the 911, the location accuracy rules, TTY, and all the handicapped services associated with that. I think we're getting close to some solutions that will be acceptable to especially the smaller carriers. The FCC, I think, is coming around to recognizing that it's pretty big lift for smaller carriers for some of the rules they've suggested. So those are all issues, but again, 4G to 5G, IoT. A lot of focus now on the future spectrum future. The higher gigahertz range. We talked about it today in the session. The 29, the 28, and the higher 5.5 and 3.5. So those are all issues. LTE, LTU. So everyone's already focused on, okay, if we get the auction over with, how are we going to sustain and provide these customers what they expect? And it's great to see. A lot of thinking's going in.
A lot on the plate still. You guys are not done. Obviously the auction was a big part of your focus, but now that that's done, there's still plenty happening, and then there's a new administration at some point, and there's a lot going on for you guys, that's for sure.
Yeah, a lot of musical chair changes will probably take place at the end of the year.
Yep.
And you got to be ready for that, and also be focused on what is really needed by the small carriers to sustain and continue to grow. And this year it's been a tough year on consolidation. There's been a lot of spectrum licenses sold to some of the larger carriers, and it's a tough, tight, competitive world out there right now for many of the small carriers. And so that's our focus. Is we created the data access hub and the device hub. And both of those, the data access hub is up and running and starting to really gain some momentum. And the device hub is now on the verge of being a successful hub. We delivered devices to several carriers already.
Good.
And that's going to, I think, make a big difference, especially as you move into the 5G world. Because you got to have the devices if you're going to have the capability to serve those customers. So that's going to be interesting, especially as we move forward here after the auction. You guys are staying busy. Then obviously we're here in Nashville, a new city for CCA to come to, and then we got Seattle coming up in the fall too. Nashville's been absolutely phenomenal for us, and it's great to see a lot going on here. So it's it's sort of interesting to come to. We started this out, I don't know if you're aware, but the first day is our CCA Give Back Day. And we had about 100 wireless members that went to this school, this Napier, the elementary school, did a great job of refurbishing and helping the school out, and made about a $10,000 contribution through Nashville, Hands on Nashville, all from our members.
Yeah, that's great.
And so it was started out as a nice, heartwarming exercise, and it's also built the camaraderie and the networking. So yeah, we've had a great time here. And since you mentioned Seattle, since we're all on camera, I can
say do it all right now. Yes.
Yeah, please remember Seattle.
Seattle's coming up in the fall.
It's coming up, and there's going
to be. What's the date? We got the official date.
September 20th.
All right.
And 22nd
in Seattle.
We've got a lot of interest coming. T-Mobile's backyard.
Right there, right.
And Mr. Wheeler's already committed to come and
great.
And do a keynote for us. And there's some interesting people in Seattle that
I've heard.
A few of them will come down and visit with us. So and we'll have another nice floor presentation like this. I mean, I really like the openness, and I think our members have really taken to the new format. Keeping the show floor open all day or all afternoon is first time we've tried that, and you can see. I mean, it's just
good traffic.
packed all day.
Good traffic all day.
Very good.
Yeah, and exactly. You guys have a good size too, because you can go to kind of these different locations as opposed to being stuck going to the Las Vegases or the Orlandos of the world. You guys can actually go to different locations, and a lot of these locations are where your members are. So it's kind of nice to go to their backyard sometimes and kind of let them show what they can do in their markets. And it seems like a great way to kind of connect more with your members too.
I have several members, carriers and associate members came up and say, "Wow, I got to drive here."
Exactly. I talked to some.
That was pretty neat. That was pretty neat.
That was really good.
So I really appreciate your contributions and live streaming our events.
No problem at all. It's always great to be
still waiting for you to come.
I know. Golf one of these days. I know.
Do golf with us.
After watching the Masters this week, I had a bit of a flashback, so I'm not sure if I can do it for a while. But anyway, Steve, also always great to talk to you, great to catch up and get some insight of what's happening with you guys. But we definitely appreciate the time and insight today.
Thank you, and thanks for being here.
No problem at all.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much. All right. Also at the event, I had a chance to speak with Ericsson North America CTO, Glenn Laxdal, who provided a checklist and some timelines for rural carriers as they look to move towards 5G, IoT, and virtualization platforms. Let's take a look at that interview now as well. This is Dan Meyer with RCR Wireless News, and I'm speaking with Glenn Laxdal from Ericsson to talk a bit about what's happening here at the CCA Mobile Carrier Show. So Glenn, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it as well. Thank you.
So I know one topic I want to talk with you a little bit about was it seems like at this point that a lot of these small rural guys are having to make a lot of decisions when it comes to network evolution. Obviously a lot of acronyms are being thrown at them at this time, whether it's 5G, IoT, LTE, all the different ones that are out there. And I was hoping to get from you maybe laying out a bit of a time frame that these guys should be looking at in terms of what they should be, what should be on their list of do this as they kind of make this evolution towards what's going to be a whole new network scheme.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a great question. I think that's exactly what operators are looking at. There's a range of new technologies and technology acronyms out there that small operators as well as big operators can take advantage of, starting with LTE. So many of these small carriers are just in the process of deploying LTE. I think we started to deploy LTE networks in the 2010 timeframe, so we're now 5 years, a little bit more than 5 years into the very initial LTE deployments, and many of the rural carriers are deep into their LTE deployments right now. And what we're encouraging rural operators to do is complete the LTE build out, increase the capacity on the LTE network, and then start to look at other technologies that we're able to take advantage of to allow operators to keep up with high growth and data traffic across their network, like network function virtualization, software-defined networking to virtualize the network core, reduce the cost of the capacity running across the network core, and improve the agility to launch new services on that network core. And again, that doesn't have to happen day one. Operators might think about launching new IoT-based thin applications using a virtualized network core to enable those applications. Beyond that, we're starting to make some changes in the LTE network to enable Internet of Things. So technologies like LTE Category M and narrowband LTE will let us introduce devices onto the network that have much longer battery life and can last in the network for long periods of time to take advantage of Internet of Things applications like connected wind turbines and connected oil pump facilities and oil rigs and so on. And then beyond narrowband LTE, we start to get into 5G, the next generation of technology, which we think will be standardized in about the 2019 timeframe. So operators can start to think about how to deploy 5G in the 2021, 2022 timeframe to take advantage of the really broad band capability that 5G will provide. And by the time we get out to that time frame, we see 5G and 4G being really tightly coordinated together. Mm-hmm. So all the investments that operators are making and rural operators are making in LTE today, they're going to be able to reuse as we evolve ultimately to 5G over the long-term time horizon.
Makes sense. So obviously then LTE, virtualization, IoT, different variations of LTE, and then moving on to 5G in the 5 to 10 year time frame for now.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think that also rural operators are looking at the improved revenue growth possibilities from the Internet of Things, and so there's lots of ways they can take a clever advantage of these new technologies that we're going to be introducing to launch their new businesses.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, Glenn, definitely appreciate the insight today. Thanks so much for that. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, well, that'll do it for this week's Carrier Wrap. Thanks again for joining us this week. Make sure to check out the RCR TV site for more news and videos from the CCA show. Thanks for watching.